everybody, and welcome to another episode of Unsilence with your host, Justin. Sorry I've missed a few days. Been unable to really kind of shake this sickness I've had, but finally I'm kind of on the mend. So, we are in day three of our government shutdown, and yeah, that's a really fun thing. It's kind of a ridiculous shutdown. It's a shutdown that should never have happened. It's a shutdown that is being completely politicized, even though the continuing resolution bill was a nonpartisan resolution bill, just to keep the government going while they still work on different issues between the Republicans and the Democrats. But of course, Chuck Schumer is the one who is putting up blocks to this. He's got the roadblocks in place. He doesn't want to do this. A lot of people are speculating it's because he's worried that AOC is going to be giving him a run for his money in 2026 for his Senate seat, or maybe it's 2028. I believe he might be up for that. I'm not quite sure. So I've got quite a few clips today on this, and I want to talk a lot about this because it is pretty ridiculous, some of the things that they are wanting and are asking for. They're really ridiculous things that they're asking for, and they're very hypocritical as usual. And I have some clips to show how hypocritical they are and continue to be. So let's dive right into a few of the clips.
It was a long night here. It's been a long few days. We were hoping, praying that the Democrats would not take this dramatic step, and they have. Let's be clear what happened last night. 44 Senate Democrats rejected a clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution to keep the government operating. They decided that it would be more important to give health care to illegal aliens again instead of keeping critical services running for the American people. That's what happened. So real people are going to be affected. About half the civilian workforce, federal hardworking Americans who work for the federal government, will be furloughed. We'll have troops and Border Patrol agents who do have to go to work but who will not be paid. You're going to have critical services to women, infants, and children through the nutrition programs that will now be halted. You're going to have FEMA that can't renew flood insurance programs while we're in the center of hurricane season. I mean, it's really incredible that they took this step. And I want to make something very clear at the outset here, Maria. There is one reason, and one reason alone, that Chuck Schumer is leading the Democrats off this cliff. He is trying to get political cover from the far left corner of his base. He's afraid of a challenge for his Senate seat by AOC or someone like that. And that's why he has changed his tune. Everything he said for his entire career in Washington for decades, that shutdowns would be dangerous and reckless and irresponsible. He's now changed his tune to give himself political cover, and that's exactly what's going on here.
That's incredible.
So your Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, just kind of laying it all out there. I don't think I realized as an American citizen how much money was actually going to medical funding or, any kind of healthcare funding for illegal immigrants. And I was kind of astonished. I had no idea. And I think that's quite ridiculous that that kind of money is going in to serve over 2 million illegal immigrants on healthcare when, the rest of us taxpayers have to pay that money and we suffer because of it. Um, so that was quite astounding to me. I I completely disagree with that. I don't understand how that was ever put in the first place, why that was ever allowed in, why the Republicans didn't fight that more during Joe Biden's administration. Of course, I'm not there every day. I don't know what it's like to be a senator or a representative. They're dealing with these things, but to me, that is quite ridiculous. And here's Speaker of the House, the whole House, over 400 people, about 435 people, all voted for this continuing resolution, but it's the Senate that's holding it up, and it's specifically Chuck Schumer, who has been a thorn in the side of politics for the last at least decade, if not longer. So let's continue with some more clips from Mike Johnson on this.
Our prayer is that it is a very short shutdown and that more Democrats come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people and not follow Chuck Schumer off the cliff. He has painted himself into a corner because he's made absurd arguments. They've created a position here that is indefensible. There's nothing I can give. There's nothing to negotiate, Maria, because I can't offer anything to make our CR less partisan because I never added partisan provisions in the first place. It's totally clean. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer voted for in March, and you should go see what he said and how important it was back then. It's exactly the same. He has nothing to argue, and I have nothing to offer. So there's no negotiation. And that's why President Trump sent them away from the White House, and he said, this is very unfortunate. You won't do the right thing. Well, I mean, that's what happened.
Putting aside the people who...
So he had a meeting in the White House, in the Oval Office. So Mike Johnson was there, Senator Thune was there, J.D. Vance was there, Hakeem Jeffries from the House, and then, of course, Chuck Schumer. And, they had great discussions, but it got to the point where President Trump was just like, this is what it is. We can discuss these things further, but don't shut down the government for this. And Hakeem Jeffries went on to CNN right after this was first breaking, saying, oh, the Republicans are lying. It's all a big lie that we want money for the illegal immigrants to have health care. Well, then J.D. Vance posted a tweet that was just a picture of a page that showed exactly where that money was going. And so then they've had to walk that back a little bit. So there's another Democrat that went on and was talking about this, and I will play that clip and then the response for that.
In terms of health care, the reality is they're just not being honest. The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act, if at all. And so we can argue that point, but the reality that even the vice president would acknowledge, that anyone who looks at the numbers will acknowledge, is 90 to 95% of the funding we're talking about is talking about funding for American citizens.
So, Mr. Speaker, what really is this fight about?
Well, I'd like everybody to go read the bill for themselves. They rejected our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, and they filed their own. What Chuck Schumer presented as the counterproposal, look at page 57, section 2141, okay? They would repeal, Maria, what we put into the One Big Beautiful Bill, the working families tax cuts, okay? In that provision was the health care section. They want to repeal it in its entirety. That section has been wildly successful. The Congressional Budget Office issued a report earlier this month, last month, a few weeks ago, and they said that that bill has already saved taxpayers $185 billion because it's got 2.3 million ineligible recipients kicked off of Medicaid. What does that mean? There's a lot of illegal aliens that were on that program who are not eligible to be there. It was draining resources from the people that it's intended to help, and that is young pregnant women, the disabled, and the elderly. We are strengthening Medicaid, and the Democrats want to unwind that because they have a political talking point. This thing about the subsidies is an issue that is to be debated and decided by the end of the year. It doesn't expire until December 31. They've inserted it into the September funding decision because they're trying to show a fight against Trump. It's ridiculous. They have nothing to argue, and everybody here knows that.
So you're going to have to...
So it made me laugh. So, here is this Democrat, and he's saying, well, 90 to 95% is all going to American citizens. Well, that other 5 to 10%, why is that even going at all to a non-American citizen? I don't care if the number is 0.1%. That's too much. Our tax dollars should not be funding people who don't contribute to our society whatsoever. Why is any of it going there? So it's an argument that's dead on its face right at the get-go, and they still just want to push this like, oh, it's not that much, don't worry about it. Well, it's too much if it's even $1, okay? Because the illegal immigrants, yes, they are people. I'm not saying they don't deserve human rights, but they don't deserve my taxpayer money. when I have to struggle for certain things, why do they get to just have a free run of things? Why is that even in any policy? Why is it that any lawmaker that is American can want to put that into a policy? It makes no sense to me. It is completely counterintuitive to being American. You take care of your own. If we have a surplus, then we can go out and help other people. But we don't have a surplus. We've got plenty of people here that are American citizens that are suffering day in and day out, and they can't get the same kind of access or health care that illegal immigrants are getting. People who jumped the border and committed a crime to come here, and they're getting more than their fair share. They have no fair share here because they didn't come here legally. So there were three Democrats, well, technically two Democrats and an independent, who did vote in favor of the continued resolution. And John Fetterman, of course, is one of them. John Fetterman is one of those that I continue to gain respect for because he's definitely very moderate. And he's been getting a ton of backlash for voting in approval of the continued resolution bill because he's like, this is dumb. Why would we want to shut the government down and not continue things? It's only going to hurt people. We need to continue to work on these things in discussions and not hold the government hostage. A very common sense type of argument. And of course, he's getting backlash in his state for it, but he holds to his guns. And so here's Mike Johnson's response to John Fetterman.
Senator Fetterman said there is exactly right. That interview you had with him has been sent around the world because there's so much common sense there. And what he was referring to is the fact that his colleagues, Democrat colleagues, have always supported continuing resolutions. In fact, Maria, the actual number is 13. 13 times in the previous 4 years under the Biden administration, there were CR situations and they all voted yes. Why? Because they wanted to keep the government open because they knew how dangerous and damaging it would be for the American people. And now they've switched their tune because they're trying to play politics.
President Trump.
So here it is. 13 times over the last 4 years that the Democrats have voted on a resolution, a continued resolution to just continue the government going while we still figure out different fundings and strategies that we want to do. And the Republicans were right on board with that. So all of a sudden, the Democrats want to jump ship. Okay, so it's all about the illegal immigrant money. And again, it's more political than that as far as Chuck Schumer does not want to lose his power. And he is afraid that someone like potentially AOC, is going to take his senatorship because he's not standing up enough on this very far left thing. So the next bunch of clips I want to play, one of my favorite senators, he cracks me up so much. He's so Southern and he's got so many colloquialisms that are just hilarious sometimes. But Senator Kennedy, and he kind of puts it right out there, and I really kind of agree with him, and I really enjoy listening to him.
Mr. President.
The senator from Louisiana.
Well, Mr. President, it looks like we're going to have a shutdown. What does that tell us? I'll tell you what it tells me. It's simply that much more evidence that human evolution is a slow process. I thought humans had advanced more as a species, but apparently we haven't.
I love how he puts it. He's always very, just cuts right to the bone, always to the point. I thought we had advanced more and we haven't. You can see on his face the disappointment that he is feeling at this. He works pretty hard for his state and for the rest of America when he's, making policies and voting on policies and things such as that. And, you can just see how upset he is in this. Let's continue with him.
Now, we've had a few shutdowns before, and every shutdown is different, but most shutdowns are a combination of both policy and politics in varying degrees. This shutdown, in terms of policy, makes absolutely no sense. None. What we have proposed to our Democratic colleagues and the minority leader, Senator Schumer, is to make no changes to the current budget. We just want to continue the current budget and keep government open until just before Thanksgiving to give us more time to negotiate a permanent budget. We did that many times when President Biden was president and when the Democrats had the majority. In fact, we did it 13 times. Not only have Republicans done it, but Democrats have routinely done it. But this time, the Democrats have said, no, 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 no. We want more. And you may be thinking, okay, that's reasonable. What do you want? Well, it's not reasonable. In effect, what the Democrats are saying to us is that we're going to close government unless you Republicans agree to make it bigger. We don't want the status quo. We want you to commit to spending $1.5 trillion more than you're spending now. And we, the Democrats are saying, are going to tell you how to spend it.
So I don't think it could be much clearer than that. Senator Kennedy seems to me to be a very reasonable man. He seems to always want to fight for what is right for all of America. He even refers to his colleagues most of the time as his Democrat friends. So he tries to keep the temperature down always. But here they're wanting $1.5 trillion more, and that the Democrats are going to tell us how to spend it, tell the Republicans how to spend it. And of course, a lot of that is going to go into funding healthcare for illegal immigrants. Because on all of the issues, the Democrats are losing, except for abortion, climate change, and healthcare. And healthcare is just right in there, and this is part of their healthcare that they want, is to fund illegal immigrants' healthcare, which is not something that we need to afford.
And when Senator Schumer announced these demands, that's when I knew. I knew it in a nanosecond. We're going to have a shutdown. Because my colleagues, my Democratic colleagues, are very smart people. And Senator Schumer is a smart person. And he knew when he announced these demands that I could tell he wasn't serious. He knew they were unserious. And he knew that neither the president nor the other members of Congress were going to accept them. And you know what? Many Democrats know they're unreasonable as well.
So here he is, just calling them right out to the carpet. They know what they're doing. They know how ridiculous this is. They knew that this is where it would go. They had no illusions that this was going to go in their favor this way. They wanted a shutdown. They absolutely want this shutdown because they are just so against President Trump and anything that his administration does, good, bad, or other, that they are just going to fight it tooth and nail no matter what. And this is just proof in the pudding right here, because there is no reason for this shutdown. This is nonpartisan. This is just continuing the budget until the end of the year. And none of these things even run out till the end of the year. So why are they fighting it now is the question. But let's continue with some more of Senator Kennedy.
And there is a wing of the Democratic Party. I call it the socialist wing. Some less charitable people call it the loon wing of the Democratic Party. And they are in charge right now. And the non-loon, non-socialist Democrats are scared to death of them. And this particular wing of the Democratic Party that's in the ascendancy, what do they believe? They try to out-weird each other all the time. They hate, if you listen to them, they hate Thomas Jefferson. They hate Abraham Lincoln. They hate George Washington. They hate Dr. Seuss. They hate Mr. Potato Head. They think our kids should be able to change genders back and forth at recess. Kids. And if it's their preference, should be able to undergo sex change operations while minors paid by you, the taxpayers. They believe that.
I just love how he talks. It cracks me up. He's so Southern that it's really funny. But yes, they are kind of loons in this very far leftist part of it. You know, your AOCs, people like that. And you know, he went into talking about the trans issue and everything. That shows you how nutty they can be. They are very nutty. And the problem is, for Chuck Schumer, that this nutty side has the power right now. And because they have the power, he wants to keep his power, so he's got to play to that side. This is a big reason for this shutdown. Because he has to play to that side because he does not want to lose what he has. He doesn't want to lose that power. He wants to keep that. And he's on a very, very thin ice with it right now. And if he goes too moderate, he'll lose that. I mean, just going into look at who they're electing in New York. No doubt in my mind that Zohran Mamdani is going to be elected. He is as socialist as they go. So socialist and so anti-Semitic that he says that if Benjamin Netanyahu were to come to New York, he'll have him arrested. For what? I don't know. But that just shows you the craziness that he has as far as this goes. So let's watch another clip of Senator Kennedy.
Now, once you shut government down, unless you're prepared to leave it shut down permanently, and maybe my Democratic colleagues are, but I don't think so. I still, maybe I'm naive, but I still think too many of my Democratic colleagues in the Senate know better. Once you shut the government down, you got to get back open. How are they going to get it back open? We're not going to agree to their demands. $1.5 trillion.
This is the question. Because if that is what they're going on, it's not going to open back up. And the problem is this is going to be affecting people such as the soldiers. You know, luckily they got their paychecks on the 1st, but if this goes past the 15th, they're not getting their paychecks, but they still have to work. Border Patrol still has to work. Flight controllers still have to work, but they are not going to be getting paid. You know, luckily they'll get back pay, but if some of these people are paycheck to paycheck, which a lot of Americans are, that's going to put a real strain on them, all because of some stupid political game. So the Democrats who claim to care so much about the American people are willing to hurt the American people for ego. Completely just for ego. And that's all this is about, is completely 100% ego. So I'm going to do a round of a few more clips that are from J.D. Vance.
Guys, good to be with you.
So y'all been going back and forth. Y'all had the leadership over. What are they asking for? Because you guys made it very clear. You just want a clean CR. What do they want in return?
Yeah, so Lawrence, I want to answer that, but let's step back for a second because I think it's important for the American people to realize that the far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we wouldn't give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. It's actually not even all Senate Democrats. I was really gratified to see that a few of the moderate Senate Democrats voted with Senate Republicans last night to keep the government open. This is basically Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, he's worried he's going to get a primary challenge from AOC, and so he's shutting down the people's government to give in to sort of the left-wing coalition and their party. And it's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and the air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today, starting today. And obviously, the longer this drags on, the worse that it is for the American people. So we are where we are. And to your point, what do Senate Democrats ask for? Well, initially, they said that they wanted to shut down the government because Donald Trump was a dictator. Okay, that's absurd. Then they said they wanted to shut down the government because they wanted hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. That, of course, is also absurd. And now they're saying they just want to work on ensuring that Americans have low-cost health care. Well, I agree with them. Of course, we all want to ensure that Americans have low-cost health care, so let's work together on that. You don't shut the government down. You don't take the government as a hostage because you want to engage in a negotiation about health care costs. Let's do that negotiation, but let's do it in the context of actually opening the government and ensuring those essential services are actually provided to the American people.
I really believe this guy is probably going to be our next president. I love how he talks. He's very smart, just brilliant, energetic, and young. I think that he continues to hold the same ideals Donald Trump does as far as how the American people are and what he wants for the American people. It's not about him, it's about the American people. That's what I love about this whole administration, is it's not about Trump. It's about the American people. Sure, Trump's got ego. Of course he does. You can't get to a position of power like this without having a little bit of ego. But I mean, just some of the things he does shows that it's not about him. You know, he's donated so much money to the new flag poles and things at the White House. That's his own money. It's not taxpayer money. In fact, he just won a lawsuit with YouTube because they had banned conservative views on there, and so up to, I think, about $25 million. Most of that is going to go into paying for a new ballroom at the White House and other federal things. So he's not pocketing any of that money, and you know, that's not the taxpayer that has to pay for that either. You know, so, and he also doesn't draw a salary. The 400,000 or whatever it is the presidents are supposed to get per year, he doesn't take that. And so he's definitely there for the American people. And I see the same thing with J.D. Vance. But, you know, here it is, laying it out. Oh, Trump's a dictator. Well, a dictator would be someone who would shut the government down. Trump is not trying to do that. He's trying to do continued resolutions. He's trying to hear every side. A dictator doesn't do that. A dictator just does what a dictator wants to do. So it looks like more of the dictatorial type behavior is coming from the other side at this point. So Mike Johnson has been putting out on in the Capitol building. He's got TV monitors out there that are playing montage of things that the Democrats have said over the past bunch of years as far as government shutdowns goes. So this shows their true hypocrisy.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know who it hurts? You. Everyday people and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
That right there shows their hypocrisy. 100% shows their hypocrisy. This is just from the last bunch of years, from the last shutdown on, how a shutdown is bad and we shouldn't use this for this. And now they're doing this exact same thing, 100%.
Yeah, so this is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are two Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number one is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to healthcare funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for healthcare benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
And I love this. JD Vance is this kind of no nonsense, we're not going to reward you for shutting down the government by giving you what you want. Open the government back up and we can have discussions. Now, it's backfiring on the Republicans it's backfiring on the Democrats because now this gives Trump and his administration an open field to say, all right, what still needs to be cut? Because obviously there are still fatty areas of the government that are spending too much money. And now this just gave open market to say, okay, some of these employees that have been furloughed are now just not going to be coming back because obviously we don't need them. So that's sad for the employee, but it obviously shows the overreach and the far too much spending from the federal government as far as all of this goes. So I am in agreement with the Republicans and how they're handling this. I love that Mike Johnson has taken a page from Trump's trolling book by putting that video montage up of what the Democrats have said in the past about government shutdowns and it's showing their hypocrisy. You just fight their words with their own words because they have nothing to stand on as far as that goes. So let's get to some headlines. So, a really horrible story today coming out of Manchester in the UK. So, it is the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. And a UK resident who is a Syrian refugee who gained citizenship, I believe, back in 2006, who calls himself Jihad al-Shami, decided to run his car into a bunch of the Jews at this synagogue in Manchester and then get out and start attacking people with a knife. And so armed police showed up and fired on this crowd, mostly trying to get this al-Shami to stop doing what he was doing, and ended up a couple people killed, mostly I think from the gunshots, as well as al-Shami was killed. So al-Shami is translated in from Syrian to meaning the Syrian. So they're unsure whether that is his actual birth name, which it probably is not. So they declared the assault was a terrorist attack, which they absolutely should. It's completely anti-Semitic, and this is the problem with letting in too many people unvetted. England does this a lot. A lot of the European countries do this. They have let the Muslim population come in, and I'm not talking that every Muslim is bad, but I'm talking these people who come in from these very Islamic countries and just overrun. People in the UK will get arrested for being anti-Palestinian when they're flying these Palestinian flags out there, but the Palestinians or whoever else from these Islamic countries can do whatever they want, basically, and they're protected. So the free speech of the actual native-born UK British people or whomever get infringed upon to protect and to, be social justice warriors, basically, is what's happening. So they were gathered. This crowd was gathered at Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue to be celebrating Yom Kippur, and it says he is accused of ramming a car into pedestrians outside the synagogue at around 9:30 a.m. local time, and then started attacking them with a knife. He was wearing what appeared to be explosives on his belt, which ended up not actually being explosives. So it looks like 2 people died and 4 others were injured. Al-Shami was not armed, and that one of the deceased victims suffered a gunshot wound, likely from police gunfire during the response. Um, so police arrested 3 people on suspicion of the preparation or commission of the acts of terrorism. And so the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the assault as a vile terrorist attack that attacked Jews because they are Jews, which is absolutely true. And he went on to say that anti-Semitism is a hatred that is rising once again. Britain must defeat it once again. To every Jewish person in this country, I promise that I will do everything in my power to guarantee you the security that you deserve. Well, you can start, Mr. Stormer, by not allowing this flood of Islamists to come into your country without vetting them properly. This is your country. You don't have to do this whole, oh, I'm on the left side of things and we care for everybody. We can all be one people. That's a beautiful sentiment, but their values don't align with Western values, and you know it. And so by allowing these people to continue to come in, this is what you're going to see. These Jews have been there forever, and they're just trying to go and celebrate their holiday, their religious holiday, and they get attacked for this. We're seeing this far too often, far too much, and it's got to stop. It really has to stop. Just open your eyes and quit being stupid. You're being stupid. We see that here in America as well. Stop being stupid. You don't have to let these people in. It doesn't make you a bigot. It doesn't make you a xenophobe. That you don't want people who don't share your cultural values to be taking over big swaths of your country. Just stop doing it. You can, people like this should actually be deported. And I think America should do that more, and I think that Europe should do that more. So let's do just a few more headlines. A third drug ship has been targeted by the Trump administration coming up from South America. So hopefully they're getting the message. There was a interview with a Sinaloa cartel person, and he verified that Trump's efforts are very much hurting their operations, which good, it should. And I hope the Sinaloa cartel implodes on itself, really, because you're evil and you create these problems. So in some better news, let's have a few good headlines to end this out. The Tennessee government, or the governor, is praising federal troops being in and cleaning up in Memphis. They've already done multiple arrests in Memphis, and they're starting to see a turnaround in crime. I think that this optically was very important for Trump to go into a state where he was invited to bring in federal troops to help conquer the crime there. This looks very good for him. So, if he's doing this in red states that are inviting him, what are the blue states going to do now? They are proponents of crime if they don't accept his help. And the last good headline, Riley Gaines had her baby, and good job, Riley Gaines. It's always a beautiful blessing when babies are born. So I just remind you that we have to be like Charlie Kirk and stay unsilenced from everything. Keep your voices active, and that is why I continue to remain unsilenced.